There's one question that haunts the mind of every Warhammer player, painter and lore nerd. What is that? And it is that question that I seek to answer today, with this video explaining every enemy in Space Marine 2. I think a good place to start is with the Tyranids, as that is where the game itself starts. Now, what is a Tyranid? Starting with an overview of the species in general, Tyranids are an alien race that originated outside of the Milky Way galaxy that are controlled by a gestalt psychic consciousness known as the hive mind. They can repurpose biological matter gained from eating other species to create more specialised bioforms, which we will get into. They roam the galaxy in their giant flesh ship. Yes, they're ships that are just extremely large Tyranid bioforms, and eat any planets that get in their way. They consume everything on the planet, from sentient life to topsoil to mineral deposits, so much so that planets devastated by a Tyranid hive fleet are measurably smaller once they are done with it. With that being said, and starting with the most basic enemy, we have Hormigons. They are the Tyranid equivalent of foot soldiers, with huge blade-like claws they use to eviscerate anything in front of them. They move in swarms and rampage across the planet that they have been unleashed upon, killing everything they find. They do not need explicit direction from the hive mind, as they will instinctively feed upon anything they find due to the perpetual ravenous hunger that defines them. Termagants are the shooty equivalent to Hormigon. Instead of the massive claws, they are equipped with a wide array of ranged weapons. Interestingly, as everything Tyranids have is biological, these weapons are actually smaller Tyranid lifeforms that have been grafted onto the arms of the Termagant. I would like to mention my favourite one of these, the Devourer, which launches a shower of worms that burrow into the target's flesh and destroy their central nervous system. You're welcome for that lovely image. If cut off from the hive mind, Termagants will instinctively find cover and defend the immediate area from any threats that enter it. Evolved from Termagants, we have Gargoyles, vicious winged scouts for the Tyranid hordes. They are essentially Termagants with wings and stubby little legs, nothing too exciting to note here. Rippers are responsible for the speed with which a hive fleet can strip a planet of biomass. They are completely mindless, unlike most other bioforms, and will die if they lose contact with the hive mind. Till then, however, they will scour a planet, devouring any and all biomass they can come across, and leaving only a desolate wasteland. Once they have consumed so much that they are unfit for combat, they crawl into reclamation pools, where they and the biomass they have consumed are broken down and repurposed by the hive mind. Next up, we have the Tyranid warrior. As the most common synapse creature, they are intended to direct the lesser Tyranids and form the focal points of the hive mind's telepathic command. Incidentally, this concept is why killing a warrior will either stun or kill the Hormigons and Termagants surrounding it, due to the psychic backlash released when they die. Warriors are highly adaptable, with over 212 known variants covering every niche imaginable. Some carry long-range weapons, some short-range, some are close combat specialists. Less commonly, you have winged warriors, who act as fast-moving assault troops and air support. Lictors are the assassins of the hive mind. They possess a chameleonic carapace that can render them almost invisible, and can remain motionless for entire days at a time, waiting for the perfect moments to pounce on their victims. They also use their feeder tendrils to extract brain matter, and can use this to sift through their victims' memories. If you've watched my Space Marine video, you already know how I feel about this, so we'll move on before I pop a blood vessel. Speaking of popping a blood vessel, next up we have the most annoying enemy in the entire game, the Ravener. They are equipped with a large pair of claws that use to tunnel underground before popping out to ambush their prey right in the middle of a gun strike. Engineered from Eldar DNA, zoanthropes are incredibly powerful psykers with enhanced synaptic control compared to other bioforms. They psychically levitate across the battlefield, raining down bolts of warp lightning and relaying commands. They are also difficult to kill by virtue of the psychic shields they maintain around their body, which shield them from ranged fire and can even turn aside melee blows, much like the void shields found in Imperial spacecraft. All of this sounds very threatening until you bring a heavy and they disintegrate within about half a second. Might as well mention Neurothropes while we're here. They're basically the same thing, just a bit bigger and more dangerous. Filling the role of artillery in the Hive Fleet's armies is the Biovore. Incredibly heavily armoured, they use spikes on their forelimbs to anchor themselves in position before releasing a barrage of spore mines, living bombs that detonate if they sense any nearby non-Tyranid lifeform. Moving on to the first Terminus class enemy, who also happens to be the newest addition to the game, Drygons are essentially larger Raveners who often lead hordes of them in larger battles. They are primarily used as stealth operatives who orchestrate surprise attacks behind enemy lines. Carnifexes are the main battle tank of the Tyranid forces. Armed with the most advanced bioweapons, they are used to board ships and to attack fortified positions and enemy armour formations, similarly to a dreadnought. At least one Carnifex, Old One Eye, was shown to have had the ability to regenerate itself from mortal wounds, including a plasma pistol shot into its brain. Next up we have the main battlefield commander of a Tyranid host, the Hive Tyrant. Unlike most Tyranid bioforms, Tyrants are incredibly intelligent and even somewhat self-aware. As such, they can respond to battlefield events faster than the Hive Mind and can better adapt to the tactics of the swarms they command. Should a Hive Tyrant die, the Hive Mind simply grows another and gives it all of the memories of the predecessor, leading to each individual Hive Tyrant being essentially immortal. If you needed convincing how dangerous these were, a unique Hive Tyrant, the Swarm Lord, almost killed Marnius Calgar. Finally, for the Tyranid side of things, we have the Hierophant Biotitan. Among the largest creatures encountered among the forces of the Hive fleets, Hierophants are comparable in size and power to an Imperial Titan. Hierophants are armed with massive biocannons, the obligatory claws and blades, and are armoured with thick chitin which exudes poisonous spores. Thanks to their psychic abilities, they are further protected by warp shields and are able to re-knit damaged tissue. So that's all for the Tyranid enemies in the game, but obviously there is another faction we'll have to talk about, the Thousand Sons. One of the original 20 legions created by the Emperor himself over 10,000 years ago. The Thousand Sons were incredibly powerful sorcerers who fell to Tzeentch in no small part because their father did everything wrong. It doesn't matter what your intentions were if your actions killed everyone. Anyway, enough of my thoughts on Magnus and back on topic. Starting with the mortal followers of the Thousand Sons, we have cultists. Cultists are baseline humans who worship Tzeentch and serve the more powerful members of any given cult. They are generally unarmoured and poorly equipped, believing that their god will protect them, which Tzeentch doesn't really do. Zangors are a specific subset of beastmen, a species of abhuman who tend towards chaos worship a little bit more than most others. While beastmen are generally more goat-like in appearance, Zangors are more avian, most likely just because Tzeentch quite likes birds for some reason. Rubric Marines are the first members of the actual Legion. Originally Astartes warriors, the Thousand Sons Legion's specific gene flaw was known as the Flesh Change, and caused some members to randomly mutate into Chaos Spawn, which is not exactly pleasant. In an effort to relieve this, Ahriman, a high-ranking member of the Legion, performed a spell known as the Rubric. While this did result in the Flesh Change being cured, it also resulted in the less psychically powerful members of the Legion being sealed in their armour and reduced to dimly sentient dust. They can still move, fight and respond to orders, and are more resilient than most heretic Astartes, but are little more than automatons and fall into inactivity without a sorcerer nearby to direct them. Sorcerers, and I will include exalted sorcerers in here because they are basically the same thing but more powerful, are the more psychically inclined Thousand Sons who command units of Rubric Marines in combat. They are incredibly powerful psychers, especially exalted sorcerers, given boons by Tzeentch which further enhance their abilities. Next up we have a simple one. Scarab Terminators are essentially Rubric Marines in Terminator armour and with some of the best equipment the Thousand Sons possess. Deployed in small squads due to their rarity and wearing almost impenetrable armour, these Marines are very tough to deal with as each one is essentially an army all by themselves. Hellbrutes are Chaos Corrupted Dreadnoughts, suits of flesh and armour that contain critically injured Chaos Space Marines who are bound into the machine to keep them alive and fighting. Most Hellbrutes are completely insane and view their condition as a punishment from the Dark Gods. This leads to them being the perfect shock and awe troop, completely insane living tank on evil demon life support that will slaughter everything in its path. Helldrakes are formed by a process known as warp smithing, wherein a demon is summoned and bound to a machine to form a self-piloting weapon of war. Helldrakes are designed to deal with enemy flyers such as jets, planes or large flying Tyranids. They are incredibly resilient due to being demonic in nature, though apparently not resilient enough to resist a dreadnought throwing a rock at them. And last but certainly not least, we have the most powerful threat in the entire game, and certainly among those in the entire setting. A Lord of Change is a greater demon of Tzeentch, meaning it is formed from a larger shard of Tzeentch's power and bound to serve his will. They are among the most powerful spellcasters in the setting, able to cast spells that would incinerate even exalted sorcerers, and as such are regarded with a great deal of fear. They are among Tzeentch's most potent tools to deal with his enemies. In fact, the only thing more powerful than the baseline Lord of Change in Tzeentch's arsenal is Kairos Fateweaver. He is a special Lord of Change with 2 heads and brain damage caused from being thrown down a well, which resulted in him getting stronger, obviously. And that was every major enemy that you encounter in Space Marine 2. I hope you enjoyed and learned something, and thank you for watching.